Namaste, welcome. Thank you all for joining. Just a recap, some yoga props you will need for tonight's practice. We're going to practice tonight a winter into spring sequence. So we're going to take our time to transition out of our winter hibernation, which has been quite literal, and move into some lighter, warmer, more joyous poses that will really start to feed the spring energy, the wood elements, and the organs of our liver and gallbladder. So with that said, we're going to start in a pose. It will be a beautiful wintry cocoon, a nourishing shape. We're going to come into our caterpillar pose. So just coming down to take a seat, you might want to sit onto a folded blanket. And I'm going to take a supported variation of the caterpillar this evening. My hamstrings are feeling a little restricted and tight. So you can join me by slinging your legs over top of a yoga bolster and helping your body to ease into a forward fold. If your hamstrings are fairly open, not restricted, then you can go ahead and remove the bolster out from under and simply fold forward over your legs. You might want to add the bolster just between your belly and thighs for some additional support. And if you like to hold your head, you could rest your head into hands. Some people who can fold all the way down might like to use the bolster a little further forward on top of the shins, and then you can allow your head to come to rest there. So just take a couple of moments to settle into your caterpillar pose and allow your body to find its natural shape. Your spine is softening, so you can have a really rounded back. You can soften through your shoulders, you can relax your tummy, you can close down your eyes and begin to just quietly start to release your day. So whatever has been going on for you today, whatever your experience has been, just give yourselves a little bit of time to separate here, allowing yourselves that time to transition from the busy, from the transmitting, from the outward energy into more of a space that is inward, absorbing, quiet and still. In the Yin Yoga practice, we have time. So there is no rush. We move slowly. There is often a lot of chance for quiet and contemplation and potentially even meditation. So I often say that Yin Yoga is a winter sport, and Yin and winter certainly go together well. Your body might feel at ease in the caterpillar, in the forward fold, because naturally here we are folded over, we're turning inward, and we're really mirroring and embodying this feeling of the season of winter. Dormant, quiet, cool. Winter is water. This pose, the caterpillar pose, nourishes the whole back line of your body. So it feeds energy along the urinary bladder channels that run up that back line, and also into the physical space of your kidneys. And so as you come to soften a little more, you have about 1.5 minutes left in the pose. Just allowing yourself to perhaps relax a little deeper. And you can begin to tune in to notice how you feel physically. So notice your skin, notice the temperature. Notice your muscles, notice your bones. You might pay attention to beneath the surface of your skin. And also start to notice the inner worlds, your inner landscapes. You have about 40 seconds to go. In the final 40 seconds of the pose, you might tune in to notice how you're feeling on an emotional level. Notice your mood, the color, the flavor, the nature of your thoughts. Maybe even giving any dominant emotions a name. We're going to take about 5 more breaths in this, your opening pose. And continuing to breathe naturally. In Yin Yoga, there's no need to control your breath. And just allowing your body to adapt and adjust quietly. And this is an opportunity for your nervous system to unplug. To give yourself some much needed and well-deserved care and attention. So we're going to close the chapter of this pose. Just slowly start to lift your body up, moving any props that you have either under or over, just over to the side, and coming to lie onto your back for your first rebound pose. As you come to lie down and stretch out, you might notice some achiness through your spine, through the parts of the body that we've just stressed. And we want to take a few moments in between our poses, in between the shapes, to simply observe and to rest. So you can lie back, close your eyes, take up space. And this might be a time of simply observing and noticing with curiosity and with interest. And we don't want to transition out of the seasons too quickly. At the moment, as we lead up to the spring equinox on the 23rd of this month, where true spring begins, we're still in a transitional phase between the cooler winter months and the more outward, joyous spring. And we're using this practice tonight just to assist us to gradually move into that more open and outward state. You can slowly begin to reawaken your body by wiggling your fingers and your toes. And here it might feel nice to take a stretch. You could reach your arms up overhead, point and flex your feet. Wiggle, twitch, moan and sigh. The spring likes a good sigh, getting out, clearing out. Good, and then go ahead and bend your right knee and just hug your knee into chest for a moment. We're going to stretch the back of our right thigh, the hamstring, by coming into our leg in strap pose. But let's just stay here for a moment and get a little work into the front of our hip. Releasing if you've been sitting all day. This one can feel really nice. You're also welcome to move a little through your ankle. You can point and flex your toes. You're welcome to make a few circles around into your hip. Any movement that we take in Yin, just keeping it quiet, keeping it still. Nothing too rushed, nothing too bold. And if you have your yoga strap handy, you can hook that around the ball of your right foot. And some of you might like to just hold the yoga strap to draw the stretch. If you feel that your hamstrings are quite restricted, please go ahead and bend your left knee and just bring the sole of foot onto the earth. If your hamstrings feel fairly open, you can stretch both legs out. If you manage to get your belt into a loop, you can go ahead and hook your belt around the back of head, just so it's sitting above the ears. And this will work to bring a bonus neck stretch or neck release into your pose. Under the occiput, the occipital band, there are some important points that run along the gallbladder channel, specifically gallbladder 20. So this pose can also help to release a little bit of stagnation or blockage around that occiput. And many of us hold tension here, and it can be the cause of tension headaches. So coming into either your hammock pose or your leg-in strap, looking to feel sensation along the back line of your body, the back of your right thigh, and possibly extending along the back of your neck if your head is lifted. You have about 2.5 minutes left in the pose. So taking our time just to ease out of the winter and into the spring. And this pose will still feed energy along your urinary bladder channel. But now we've gradually added that bonus of that possible gallbladder stimulation as well. And the point that we're looking at is gallbladder 20, wind pool. And it can often be the source of headaches, tension along that back of your head. So as the time ticks on, you might notice that your body begins to open or become a little more pliable, more spacious. Maybe your head even starts to touch down onto the mat. And this is the beauty of the practice of Yin. We do want to encourage the body to just gradually open, inch by inch, moment by moment, in no particular hurry, applying that stress, that traction through the poses in order to bring about phase change into our fascia. You have about 40 seconds left in the pose. You can slowly start to release the pose. Just bending your right knee, unhook your belt, placing it over to the side so you can reach it with ease, and then coming into a more neutral position so you can rest and digest. You might notice your right thigh tingling. As you come out of a pose, your body may feel a little fragile. You may feel more vulnerable, exposed. Just coming back to your breath, knowing that the temporary discomfort will not last forever. And take about 5 more breaths in your rebound. When you're ready, you can slowly begin to reawaken, wiggling your fingers and your toes. Again, it might feel good to stretch, or perhaps this time you hug knees in, give yourself a bit of a squeeze, maybe roll across your lower back. And you're going to hug your left knee into chest, and you can either keep your right knee bent or extend that leg out. Coming first into your wind removing pose, getting into the hip flexor. You're welcome to be quite still, possibly drawing your left thigh down toward the abdomen, or you're welcome to move a little, just feeling it out. Perhaps getting into your ankle or your hip. If you've been sitting all day, this one can feel really good. Just releasing out through your lower back and stretching a little through those poor compressed hip flexors. Nice. We'll take our time to draw the hamstring stretch. Again, reaching for your yoga strap and then hooking it around the ball of your left foot, extending your left leg up to sky. If you're holding the belt, you might want to drop your shoulders and your elbows to the earth so that you're not straining to pull the leg into your body. And just gradually easing it. Try to disengage the muscles, relax your thigh. Just let the leg be held in space without too much effort or force. Some of you will be hooking the belt around the occiput, around the back of your head, and allowing your body to come into that hammock pose, dangling a little in space. There's a feeling of kind of this equilibrium, this distribution between the pushing of the foot and the dropping of your head until you find that happy space right in the center. And you can stay there. So again, we'll be just about 2.5 minutes. Remember, adjusting the length of your strap might help. So if you feel that you need more room, just giving yourself more space. And you can always keep a slight bend in your knee as well. And through months of retreat and hibernation, which we really have taken very literally this year, especially if you live in Melbourne or Sydney, now the cyclic debut as nature displays hopeful new beginnings. The season of spring is approaching. The pace is quickening. And it's a time of generosity and of kindness. And during our lives, we will encounter many springs. A climate of new life awakening. And signs of transformation starting to appear everywhere. If you have been out walking, enjoying the beautiful sunshine, you probably will have noticed the trees, the blossoms, the new flowers, the fresh scents, the smell of jasmine and honeysuckle in the air, blue skies. We're moving out of the darkness and toward the light. There's an upsurge. And this upsurge of spring is underpinned by the element of wood. In Chinese medicine, wood energy allows new growth to burst through without apology, moving whatever is in its way. And it enhances our capacity to birth new ideas, to make changes, to foster assertiveness, and to generate clear intentions. So the universe and nature are supporting us now to bud, to seed, to bring new life in. Let's take 5 more breaths in your legging strap. And then you can start to release the pose, bending your left knee, removing the belt, just taking it out of the way. You won't need that again. And allowing your body to land in a comfortable, more neutral position. If your lower back feels a little achy or stiff, know that that's completely normal. The sensations will dissipate in a few moments. Perhaps you've created some space between your vertebrae and now the fresh chi, the water, the fluid, everything is flushing and flooding there. So just let it be. And closing your eyes, breathing deeply, 5 full breaths. Nothing to do. Nowhere to be. Just this moment now. You can go ahead and reawaken, wiggling your fingers and toes. Again, it might feel really nice to stretch, sigh, moan, yawn. You can hug your knees into chest, give yourself a little squeeze. And then I'm going to get you to just roll over onto one side for a moment. Take your time. And make your way up and over. Meet in a child's pose. So I'm going to give you the option to practice quite an intense variation of child's pose here. So you will need your yoga bolster and possibly also a blanket for some extra padding, especially if you're practicing on hardwood floors and your knees are a little sensitive. So coming into a wide-kneed child's pose, and bringing your knees onto the blanket, and just bringing your bolster out in front of you. You can have it crossways or lengthways. It's really up to you to choose where you would like that support to be. So I'm going to take mine crossways and just rest my chest down and my elbows. And this is more of a tadpole than a frog. So option to take a child's pose here. We're going to be about 4 minutes. Or option to come into a pose that's a little more intense for your inner thighs and groin. We're starting to move now into the energy of liver and move our chi along the liver meridian channel. So thinking around inner thighs and groin. If you're getting sensation in that space through the child's pose, then just stay in child's. If you would like to go a little deeper, you can take your knees wider and maybe pick up your sitting bones and start to move your torso forward and back until you find a sweet spot. So some of you will be in a little frog, you'll have your toes touching. Some of you might prefer to take your lower legs out and come into a big frog. This one can be fairly intense. We're adding a back bend as well, so you'll see my spine, my lower back is curving. And we're also getting some fairly deep sensations into that liver meridian pathway. If you want to, you can lie flat on your belly, maybe nothing under your chest or tummy. And then you can start to just play with shifting your weight back and forth again until you find that sweet spot where you can stay for time. Once you're settled in either your child's pose or your tadpole or your big frog, just starting to close down your eyes and allowing your body to surrender. And This is one of the best poses for women. A really great way to send some prana or chi into the lymph nodes around our reproductive system. A really good way to, again, stimulate energy along our liver meridian pathway. And I don't mind if you're upright or down low. It doesn't matter if you're forward or backwards. As long as you're feeling it in the target area, you're doing the pose correctly. And we're starting to move now into our poses that represent the season of spring. Perhaps they feel a little more alive in your body. Again, just tuning in, noticing your sensations with curiosity, not needing to judge them, not needing to label them. Becoming a witness, an impartial observer. You have about a minute and a half left in the pose. This might be the point where you want to explore and go a little deeper in. Maybe your body has opened, it's inviting you to come further. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you've come too far and you need to pull back a little, lifting up, drawing your knees back in. And just listening to your body, always practicing with the intention of feeding our body with medicine, not trying to punish. You have about 5 more breaths in the pose. Good. So I want you to really think about coming out slowly. Move like you're 100 years old, like you're frail and fragile, which you will be at the end of that. Bring your knees back in toward the center. I always like to lie on my tummy after that pose. I like to land my bolster lengthways and kind of splat down on top as a big sigh of relief for my whole body. You might prefer to just lie onto your yoga mat. You choose. Find a comfortable position, a neutral space where you can rest and digest. Perhaps stretching out your legs and feeling the energy flush and flood back into the parts of the body where we've just restricted that energy from flowing. And take a few more breaths. And the rebound is a beautiful reminder that sometimes less is more. that it's okay to slow down. It's okay to do nothing. The quieter we become, the more we can hear. You can slowly begin to wake your body up with some little movements, a twitch of your fingers and toes, maybe a bending of your knees. I encourage you to press back either to child's pose or a tabletop position. Just take a little stretch here, maybe stretching out your lower back or coming onto knees and hands and taking some gentle ripples through your spine. So we're going to move next into gallbladder territory. This meridian pathway travels up the side or the lateral lines of our body. And this pose will particularly focus on the outside of our right hip, our right glute, and the IT band that runs down the side of your right leg. So we're going to come into our sleeping swan pose. I'm going to take my bolster and just bring it forward on a diagonal. I'm going to slide your right knee forward toward your right wrist and then just starting to walk your left leg back. This is similar to the hatha pose of pigeon, but we're not so worried about how it looks. So for those of you who have knee stuff, you can bend up your back knee and take a little of the juice out of the pose. You could also pull your right heel closer into your groin. I'm going to snug that beautiful bolster under my chest and come to fold forward. Some of you will be really comfortable extending the swan tail, so taking your left leg straight out behind you. And just one more little parameter that I'll offer. You might want to twist a little around toward your right knee that's bent. You might want to stay more in the center, or you might want to twist away from that bent knee. For those of you who struggle with this pose because of knee stuff, please know that you are welcome to flip over and take the pose on your back. So coming to lie down, you could set up a figure 4, crossing your right ankle over left knee, turning out your right knee, and either resting your left foot on the bolster as I'm demonstrating, or maybe even floating the foot up. And you could also thread the needle. So both of these shapes will target the same space. Just the one on your back will do it with less pressure to your joints. And so we're going to be 3 minutes in our swan pose. Some time to marinate, time to settle, time to move energy along that gallbladder pathway. And once you've found your sweet spot, again, closing down your eyes, turning your gaze inward, and starting to connect to your body, to your breath, to the sensations. Relaxing your head, your neck, your shoulders, making sure that your upper body is not absorbing any tension. Disengage the muscles around your right thigh, your right hip. And the spring is an expression of life at its strongest. And in the spring, the aspects of us that have been dormant through the winter months, through the hibernation, it begins to awaken, to reignite, to come back to life. Just as nature enters that cycle of renewal, so do we. The energy of spring gives us a natural boost. We feel more alive, we feel refreshed. You have about 30 seconds to go. And just your last couple of breaths in the pose. If you're lying on your back, stay on your back. Just release your limbs back down to earth. If you're in the swan pose with me, start to walk your hands back in closer to your body, lift yourself up. Again, we're going to come into a rebound. You can lie on your belly or your back. You could come into child's pose, whatever feels best for you. Remember that right leg will feel incredibly fragile, stiff and sore. You might want to stretch it out rather than coming into child's. Again, I like to lie prone on my bolster and just allow that pose to flow and flood and flush through me. We'll take a little break, with some time to rest and digest. You can begin to bring your body back to life with some little movements. A wiggle, a twitch, a hugging in of your knees, maybe a windscreen wiper of knees from right to left if you're lying on your back. If you're on your belly, again pressing back to child's pose to stretch, or coming into tabletop, moving some cat-cow or some barrel rolls. Coming back up onto your knees and hands, we're going to set up for the second side of our sleeping swan. If something didn't go well on the first side of the pose for you, please make a change. Add some extra props, some extra support, some padding. Please don't put yourself through any punishment again. So coming onto your knees and hands again, this time slide your left knee forward toward your left wrist and just start to walk your right leg back. You can keep the right knee fairly bent, stay in more of a deer pose. As you fold forward, you will still access sensation around the outside of your left hip and thigh. Some of you will extend your right leg long behind you. Again, adjusting your torso, the direction that you're facing. It might help you to feel more or less in the pose. And in Yin, we want to feel about a 7 out of 10. We don't want to push to 10 out of 10. We won't be able to hold it for time. 3 minutes ahead of us in the swan. Remember, if your left knee is sore, you can always flip onto your back and take the thread the needle variation instead. As your body begins to settle into your swan, you might notice the sensations into the target area, the lateral sides of your body. Know that we're feeding energy along the gallbladder channel. The organs of liver and gallbladder are the two key organs that we want to stimulate or move energy along these pathways through this season. They're associated with spring. And the element associated with the season is wood. And the wood element in our body has a series of functions, such as assisting our circulation, our emotional development and expression, our ability to initiate, to make decisions, to cope with change. Interestingly, the wood element is also linked to our motivation. Many of us have been struggling through lockdowns to find motivation. But hopefully now a change is coming. Spring is in the air and the pace begins to quicken. And we start to feel alive again. Lighter, less heavy. You've got about 5 breaths left in your sleeping swan. Again, take your time to come out, really plan your exit strategy so it's conscious and slow. You can come back up. And I'm going to invite you to make your way onto your back for your final rebound now. Just allowing yourself to come to lie down and stretch out, because we will conclude our practice on our backs and it'll be much less disturbance to you. I'm coming to stretch out, lie down and rest a few moments, a few breaths. If you joined us this evening just for the Shavasana, now is your chance to shine. You are invited to take an extra long 10-minute Shavasana if you would like. Alternatively, I'm going to offer you one more pose, and I'm hoping that this pose will assist you to have a beautiful, restful evening and a really deep and really wonderful sleep. So if you would like to come into one more pose, and there is no compulsion to, please start to gradually reawaken your body, wiggling your fingers and toes. Again, maybe a stretch or a hugging in of your knees. And so we're going to come into our yin inversion, but it's going to be an upside down squat, kind of like a happy baby. So in order to support your body to hold your legs up in space, you can either slide a yoga block or a yoga bolster underneath your seat. I'm going to use my travel bolster because it's just the perfect size and softness between a block and a bolster. So if you have one of these, I highly recommend. That can go underneath your sitting bones. And evening the weight out through and across your shoulders, you can go ahead and lift your bent knees up toward the sky. So you're welcome to stay with the knees slightly together or take them out apart. You're welcome to hold onto your feet or wrap your arms around the back of your thighs. And if this doesn't feel comfortable for your body to have your legs and knees so bent, you could try pulling your heels into groin and holding your ankles, or you can simply extend your legs up. So take a moment to feel where your body can be and rest in space. And we're just going to be 2 minutes. Try to find some relative stillness and quiet. And just allow the inversion to work its magic. Flipping you upside down, shifting anything that's stuck or stagnant, offering you the opportunity to see the world from another perspective, but also helping to unplug your nervous system and send you into a state of rest and digest, stimulating that parasympathetic response. You have a minute left. If you want to straighten the legs, take them into a V shape, a wide straddle. Adding a little more stimulation through the energy channel that feeds liver, inner thighs, groin, and gallbladder, outer hips. And just your final few breaths. And slowly you can begin to release your legs, your feet back down to earth. If you have a bolster underneath your sitting bones, you could go ahead and just slide it underneath the back of your knees. We're going to set up for our final pose. This will be our resting pose, Shavasana. Sometimes I like to place my bolster on top of my body, adding some extra weight, helping to ease worry, anxiety. Tops of thighs can feel good, or just around the front of the pelvis or the belly. And just spreading out, take up space. Your arms can be wide. Relax your head, relax your neck, relax your shoulders. And just begin to sink and soften down toward the earth. In winter, we're encouraged to be still, to stay warm, to snuggle, to preserve our strength, to consolidate and to restore. Rest, relax, restore. But in the spring, we want to stretch and move and maintain the drive of life. We want to sprout energy, seed intention, and begin to move back out into the world, a creative force to be reckoned with. As you lie here in this, your final pose, you might take a few moments just to reflect on the new season, your hopes, your dreams, your Shavasana. You are welcome to stay. You're welcome to continue to drift off into your own meditation practice, snuggled, cozy and warm. If you are ready to reawaken, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. It might feel really good to take a stretch. You could reach your arms up overhead. You can point and flex your toes. Again, making some noise can feel good. A groan, a sigh, a yawn. And then curling into a ball, give yourself a little squeeze. You can hug your knees into chest. Maybe roll across your lower back, massaging out through your spine. Letting your knees fall to one side, resting your head into your arm. And take a moment for some gratitude as you lie on your side, grateful for your body, your health, your practice, your community, your family, your friends, your work, the abundance that we have. And then make your way back to a comfortable seat. You can keep your eyes closed. Our hands will come lightly together in front of our hearts, Anjali Mudra. We take a moment to honor ourselves for showing up, for taking time and making time for our bodies, for self-care. Thank you so much to Angela and the team at Clam Buddhi for inviting me into this space. I hope that you all sleep beautifully. I hope that your evening is filled with laughter and light and joy, and that spring is a season of pure delight for you and all of your loved ones. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let there be peace, and to ourselves and to each other. Namaste. Thank you, beautiful yogis. Thank you, Yinsters. Thank you so much for joining. I do hope that you had a beautiful practice. And if you don't yet have your props, get some. They're fabulous. I love them. Have a wonderful evening, and I hopefully will see you again soon. Good night.